everyone, a very good evening to all of you. This is your educator Shruti and welcome to my YouTube channel Prepare with Shruti. Now before we start with today's class, I would like to thank those of you who have subscribed to my YouTube channel and are following my videos because as an educator it's very motivating for me if you like the content that I have been creating for you. And those of you who have not yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to it today itself and do click on the bell icon as well for all the latest updates. Apart from that, I'm sure most of you guys must be thinking that I'm just going on and on with these history lectures and these lectures are just not ending. See, the thing is that first of all, modern India is a very vast subject, and secondly, a lot of questions have been asked previously from your modern Indian history, which makes modern India extremely important from your exam point of view. And as an aspirant, you have to focus on modern Indian history properly if you want to get a good score in your general studies paper for any competitive exam, be it your UPSC exam, your APSC exam, or your bank exams or SSC exams. Okay, so modern India is extremely important. Now, with that mindset, do watch this video till the end, and let me tell you that this is the 6th part, and after this part I'll just come up with 2 more parts, that is part 7 and part 8, and once we are done with all these 8 parts, we will move on to new topics. Okay, so let's get started. You can now read about me here, and please subscribe to my channel Prepare with Shruti and do click on the bell icon for all the latest updates, and please like and share these videos because it would really inspire me to come up with good and relevant content constantly for you. And you can also connect with me on my Facebook page Prepare with Shruti. Okay, so having said all of that, let us get started with today's class. So the topic that we are going to discuss today, and which I have decoded after analyzing your previous year papers, is your land settlement systems or your land tenure systems. So whenever we are talking about this land settlement systems, you have to focus on 3 important settlements. The first being your permanent settlement, the second being your Ryotwari settlement, and the third being your Mahalwari settlement. These 3 settlements are very important from your exam point of view, and whenever you are preparing your modern Indian history, do prepare these topics properly. Now I'll tell you a framework which would help you in preparing these topics in a very comprehensive manner so that you can easily answer any sort of question which is being asked from this area in the exam. Okay, so the framework is that whenever you are reading about these land tenure systems or your land settlement systems, be it your permanent settlement or Ryotwari settlement or Mahalwari settlement, always look at the context in which a particular settlement was introduced. Then move on to looking at the important features or the salient features. And once you are done with these important features and the officials associated with these settlements, you should start looking at the problems associated with these settlements. Okay, so context, important features, and problems associated are the 3 things which you should keep in mind whenever you are preparing this topic of land settlement system. Now today I'll show you how you can put Ryotwari settlement in the framework which I just suggested, and you can do the same for permanent settlement and Mahalwari settlement. However, if you want me to take up permanent settlement and Mahalwari settlement also for you, then do let me know in the comment section below. I will come up with a different class on your land settlement system. Okay, so having said that, let us dive into the questions. So the question is, with reference to the Ryotwari settlement, consider the following statements, and this was asked in 2012. The first statement is, the rent was paid directly by the peasants to the government. The second statement is, the government gave pattas to the Ryots. And the third statement is, the lands were surveyed and assessed before being taxed. which of the statements given above is or are correct. Now, if you look at these statements properly, you would realize that if you are familiar with the basic features associated with this Ryotwari settlement, you can easily answer these type of questions in the exam. Okay, so let's start discussing about this Ryotwari settlement. See, when Lord Wellesley came to India as the Governor General, he, along with Henry Dundas, who was the president of Board of Trade or Board of Control, not Board of Trade, they equally shared faith in the permanent settlement of Bengal. So they were very, very happy with the permanent settlement of Bengal, and as a result, in 1798, Lord Wellesley gave orders for the extension of permanent settlement to Madras Presidency. And in order to carry out the permanent settlement in Madras Presidency, the local polygars were recognized as zamindars. Now, I am sure that those of you who have, read your medieval Indian history are aware that local polygars were basically your feudal lords who were appointed as military chiefs and administrative governors from the time of Vijayanagar Empire in parts of South India. Okay. Now, if permanent settlement was that perfect, how did this Ryotwari settlement come into being? See, the thing is that, over a period of time, the East India Company started coming into a conflict with these local polygars over the question of who should collect the taxes, and they sought to control these polygars. Okay, and these polygars also refused to accept the sovereignty of the British and refused to pay revenue to the East India Company. So obviously, for the East India Company, carrying out the permanent settlement with these local polygars was turning out to be very, very difficult, and there were polygar wars as well. At the same time, there was a growing disillusionment in the British official circles regarding this permanent settlement. And why was this happening? Because under the permanent settlement, there was no means to raise the income of government, and whatever income was being generated, most of it was appropriated by the zamindars. At the same time, the ideas of Scottish Enlightenment were also gaining a lot of influence, and these ideas of Scottish Enlightenment, they focused on the primacy of agriculture and celebrated the importance of farmer within these agricultural societies. And these ideas of Scottish Enlightenment, they influenced Scottish officials like Thomas Munro and Mount Stuart Elphinstone, who were associated with this Ryotwari settlement. Along with these ideas of Scottish Enlightenment, utilitarian ideas like David Ricardo's theory of rent were also gaining a lot of momentum, and these theories talked about eliminating the intermediaries and appropriating a larger share of increasing income from the new acquisitions of land. So I'm sure you guys are realizing that whatever ideological current was in existence at that period of time, one was attaching a lot of importance on agriculture and within agricultural societies, it was emphasizing on the importance of farmers. And the other trend was talking about the elimination or the elimination of intermediaries being your zamindars. So in this context, your Ryotwari settlement, and this is very, very important, Ryotwari settlement was started by Alexander Reed in Baramahal in 1792, and it was continued by Thomas Munro from 1801 when he took charge of the ceded districts. Okay, so this settlement was first introduced in Madras, and then it was also introduced in Bombay, Coorg, Assam, and so on. So what are the features associated with this Ryotwari settlement? Under this settlement, peasants were recognized as owners of the land, and the rent was paid directly by the peasants to the government. The peasants could sell, they could mortgage, they could lease the land as long as they paid their taxes. However, if they did not pay their taxes, they were to be evicted. Then there was also a provision of annual agreements between the government and the cultivator, and in this case, the cultivator had the choice of accepting or rejecting these agreements. And if the cultivator agreed, he would get a patta, which would become a title to private property. And under this system, the lands were to be surveyed and assessed before being taxed. So these are some of the important basic features of your Ryotwari settlement. Now let us look at the problems associated with these settlement. See, there is no doubt that this Ryotwari settlement, it raised the revenue income of the government. But the cultivators, they were under a great distress. Why? Because in many areas, no surveys were carried out, and the tax of a peasant was assessed on an arbitrary basis based on village accounts. Okay, and also this settlement was known as Patkat settlement, PUT, and under this Patkat settlement, the revenue to be paid by a peasant was fixed on the entire farm and not on each field. And this was problematic because of the varying irrigation facilities and different levels of productivity, and it often led to over-assessment. Also, this Ryotwari settlement could not eliminate intermediaries between the government and the peasants. Powerful elites like mirasidars, they could often manipulate the system to get privilege rents and convert their collective property rights into individual property rights. At the same time, this Ryotwari settlement promoted differentiation within the peasantry because there was the emergence of an affluent group of big landlords who controlled large farms and leased out surplus lands to landless tenants and sharecroppers. Now, so these are some of the problems associated with the Ryotwari settlement. Now, as I said that this settlement was also extended to Bombay, and in Bombay it was extended under Mount Stuart Elphinstone. And in order to deal with the problems which were associated with this settlement, land surveys were taken out in Bombay. So land survey was carried out by R.K. Pringle, and he classified the land and fixed the revenue at 55% of the net value of the produce. Then in 1835, this land survey was replaced by the Bombay survey system carried out by G. Wingate and H.E. Goldsmith. And this Bombay survey system aimed at lowering the demand to a reasonable limit where it could be regularly paid. So these are some of the important features associated with Ryotwari settlement. And as we discussed the important features, when you are familiar with it, you would easily realize and you can easily identify that all these three statements mentioned in the questions, all these three statements are correct. And here the answer would be your option C. Okay, so in a similar manner, you can try preparing your permanent settlement and Mahalwari settlement. Now let's move on to the next question. Who among the following was or were associated with introduction of Ryotwari settlement in India during the British rule? And this was asked in 2017. Again, a very factual question. I'm sure most of you know that Lord Cornwallis was associated with permanent settlement, and Alexander Reed and Thomas Munro, we just talked about them, they were associated with Ryotwari settlement. So here the answer would be C, that is 2 and 3. So I'm sure you guys are getting it that if you are familiar with the basic story, you can easily answer these type of questions in the exam. Now let's look at the next question. By a regulation in 1793, the district collector was deprived of his judicial powers and made the collecting agent only. What was the reason for such a regulation? And this was asked in 2010. Option A, Lord Cornwallis felt that district collectors' efficiency of revenue collection would enormously increase without the burden of other work. Option B, Lord Cornwallis felt that judicial power should compulsorily be in the hands of Europeans while Indians can be given the job of revenue collection in the districts. Option C, he was alarmed at the extent of power concentrated in the district collector and felt that such absolute power was undesirable. And option D, judicial work demanded a deep knowledge of India and a good training in law, and Lord Cornwallis felt that district collector should be only a revenue collector. Now this question is based on your Cornwallis Code of 1793. This Cornwallis Code of 1793 is basically based on the concept of separation of power, and by this Cornwallis Code, the collector was made the head of revenue administration and he was divested of all the judicial and magisterial power. And district judge was appointed as the head of judiciary at the district level. And this was done because Lord Cornwallis was alarmed at the extent of power concentrated in the district collector and felt that it was undesirable in one person and could pose a threat to East India Company. So that's all for today's class. I hope you found it useful. Keep practicing these MCQs. They would help you in getting a great score in the exam. So stay safe, guys. All the best. Have a nice day. Thank you.